This conference will now be recorded.
All right, it was almost the time. All right, good morning, everyone. I've got 9:31, and we'll go ahead and call this regular meeting of the KTMPO Transportation Planning Policy Board order at this time, noting that we do have a quorum present. We'll begin this morning with the opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone here in person that would like to address the board this morning? Seeing and hearing none, is there anyone that has identified online that would like to address the policy board this morning?
No one online.
Okay, very good. No public comments. We'll move on to item number 3 on the agenda, which is an action item regarding the approval of the minutes from the May 15th, 2024 meeting. That should have been on pages 8 through 11 in the packet that went out to you. If there are no corrections, adjustments, or comments, I would entertain a motion to, yes.
I move to accept the minutes of Brennan.
Second. We've got a motion to approve the minutes from Mr. Adams and a second from Mr. Chavez. Any further comments on item number 3? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Hearing none, ayes have it, motion approved. Item number 4 is a discussion and action item regarding a change to the September TAC meeting date. It should have brought one out on page 14 of your packet. Ryan.
All right, thank you, Judge. Good morning, everybody. I know it's been a while since I've seen all of you. In case you forgot, I'm you, Ryan. As you're aware, we typically set up the calendar for our all of our KTMPO meetings in October. We get that approved by the TAC and the policy board so that we have a consistent calendar for the year. Usually our meetings are the first and third Wednesdays of the month, but sometimes that needs to change. This is one of those instances. The Texas Planning Conference this year is the first week of September 3rd through 5th. With that being the case, we are asking that the policy board consider changing the date of the TAC meeting for 1 week to September 11th. The TAC did recommend approval of this at their July 10th meeting, but we're just asking the policy board to consider that now. I'm not sure if any of your jurisdictions are closed or if there are any that take September 11th as a city holiday. And if there are, maybe that's a good time to have that conversation to see if we'll have a quorum for that TAC meeting. But other than that, we're just requesting to push the date 1 week, Judge.
All right, very good. Thank you. And you're the planning guy, not the city manager of.
No more.
No more city manager. Okay, all right. Just clarifying.
I'm just here at the COG.
He says today.
Good. Folks, I would open up the floor for any discussion on opposition to moving that meeting to September 11th. Yes.
I was, and Ryan had mentioned it, but I know there's supposed to be a lot of things going on that day. I don't know what effect that had across the board, but I know there's been an attempt to make that day a little more sacred.
And duly noted, I think given our schedule, just from my standpoint, we could probably minimize what that agenda looks like for that particular day to help facilitate any public events that may be going on. So if the board is willing to have a little bit of flexibility with the timing of when we schedule that, it might be a little later in the day or earlier in the day. But I think from a standpoint of getting that meeting scheduled and into the calendar, I would support the 11th if the board is willing to have a little bit of flexibility on maybe it's an earlier or later time.
And this is the TAC meeting we're scheduling, not the board meeting.
That is correct.
I can go with that too. I'll move to adopt that recommendation.
We have a motion to approve the calendar change from Mr. Adams.
Second.
Ms. Ramirez, I'm going to give that one to second to Ms. Ramirez. Is there any further discussion on approving the change of that meeting? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Is there none?
No, no,
Oh, no.
sorry, I'm mumbling to myself.
Okay, very good. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 5 on the agenda would be the discussion and recommendation regarding the approval of the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the MTP. That was items on pages 16 and 17 of the packet that went out, and I'm going to turn that over to James.
Thank you, Judge. Morning, everybody. We are at the end of this long process, and since it's been a little bit, I'll just run through what our FTP is and some of the changes that we made to this document. So it's our long-range planning document, covers the next 25 years. There is a project list that's associated with it, which is what we fund projects out of. It's required for update every 5 years. And the plan itself has a lot of information about our region and how we want our transportation system to develop further. This slide has a summary of changes. I think that the biggest ones, chapters 2, which talks about how we develop the MTP, chapter 7, 6 and 7, which 6 is the active transportation chapter and 7 is the public transportation chapter. Those 3 were completely rewritten for this update. The rest of the chapters were primarily minor, making sure the information is updated. Staff does plan between now and the next update to relook at those chapters more in depth and possibly amend them if necessary. And then from the previous plan, we combined chapter 0 and chapter 1 into one chapter just for consistency. We also have new photos, which I think are very good. We got some drone shots of different places around the region, and then some submitted from various cities, and those are acknowledged in the plan towards the beginning. We did have a 45-day public comment period that started on June 3rd and ended on June 17th. Several public meetings and also some other events. I'm going to pass it off here to Anita. I think there's a slide.
Thank you.
Here's the photography credits. Go ahead, Anita. She's going to talk about public engagement.
Thank you, James. I was super excited with the whole public engagement summary because it is in part due to the success to everyone sitting in this room and their teams. Even with our photography credits, we sent out an email and every single picture in here is from regional representation, along with some drone shots like James had mentioned. So super excited about that. I think that's like just a beautiful expression of our region. It's about quality of life. Can you go to the next slide, James? Thank you. Also, we went over and above what our regulatory requirements were by hosting pop-ups and some ride-alongs with the HOP. And one of the things that really made me excited is when I posted this to our social media page, Coppers Cove EDC shared it. And within like an hour, it was shared, I think 6 times in the Coppers Cove region. And that was like on a Friday at 2 o'clock. And then on Monday, I emailed everyone else in our region, and I asked them if they would follow suit and share it. And as you can see here, we had 20 shares on that survey, and that's in collaboration with everyone in this room. It was not single-handed social media posts. So I'm very grateful for everyone. We had over 240 citizens complete the survey, and we came up with over 30 comments regarding the plan. And riding the HOP was probably one of the most insightful experiences I've ever had, and I would encourage everyone to at least ride it once to experience what the citizens rely on for their transportation. They're not just like going shopping, they're going to work. I met a group of guys, y'all, from the Killeen Walmart that they get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to catch the bus over at East Killeen. Then they do a transfer in Harker Heights. Then they go to Temple and they work construction all day. then the same group of guys do that return trip home. And just to hear their stories and how they rely on the hop, and when the buses break down, they are so grateful for those drivers that remember them at these stops and come back and get them, even if it's 2 hours late. So just thank y'all for collaborating and being wonderful community partners that have made a difference in what we've heard the public say about our plans.
Thank you, Nita.
Thank you, James.
There is a document, and I'm not sure if it was sent out, but I think it's posted on the website summarizing all the comments we received and all the events that we went to for public engagement. I think mostly they were positive, correct, Anita?
Yes, they're all positive. We had specifically the comments really revolved around projects in someone's area. Those were the questions. What I really also appreciated is that 58% of the individual surveyed believes in the mission of KTMPO and that we can accomplish this MTP plan. So I thought that was very nice to see as well. And y'all, it's not posted yet, but it will be by the end of the day. And so, and I'll be sending a thank you to all of the staff that participated in sharing that survey, because that was really, to me, that just speaks volumes of what we do together as a team.
So we'll make sure that comment summary is provided to you. It's also will be included as an appendix in the actual plan. I think there's almost 10 appendices maybe that will be, and all of this is posted on the website. There might be some minor changes, but we'll to the appendices. But the plan is up there. I think you were sent a link in the meeting materials for review. And that's all I have, Judge. We finished all of our requirements, and the tax date recommend approval on July 10th for adoption of the 2050 MTP.
Very good. Thank you, James, and thank you, Anita. And anecdote to that, James, is it true that you actually flew on the drone? I heard that. I don't know. I thought I saw that maybe in public comments somewhere that you'd actually flown on the drone. But, no, I mean, a great effort to get that message out to our citizens within the region. So with that, this is an action item regarding the approval of the 2050 MTP. I would open the floor up for discussion.
Judge, one more thing I forgot to say. On pages 18 and 19 of the packet, there's a resolution that's approving the MTP, and so that's also part of the action is to approve the resolution.
So to consider the project listing along with.
No, this is just for the MTP. The project listing is the following item, Judge.
Okay, all right, I apologize. So with that, there is a resolution 2024-06 that would support adopting the MTP for 2050.
I move to approve 2020 MTP, 2050 MTP.
We have a motion to approve the 2050 MTP, and I would ask for clarification that includes resolution 2024-06.
Yes, yes.
We have a motion and a second from Mr. Lay. Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 6 on the agenda is a discussion and action item regarding the approval of the 2050 MTP project listing. Should be pages 20 through 35 of the packet went out, and I will turn that over to James.
Thank you, Judge. This project listing is technically a part of the MTP, but because it has to do with funding, we wanted to separate out the approvals. This listing covers all of the projects that were submitted in the project call we had last fall. There's 107 of them. We did do a little bit of a redesign, so if you look through your packet, they're divided into sections. We have the TIP projects in the first section, and then the short range MTP, which is years 6 through 10 or 5 through 10, and then the long range, which is years 10 through 25 or 11 through 25. And then there's also a short section of unfunded projects. This listing is fiscally constrained based on the estimates that we have of projected funding for 25 years. I will mention that just the projects in the unfunded section, they are still eligible for funding as this list can be updated. So being in this list is the base requirement for getting funding through the MPO. The only other thing I want to mention is the TIP, that first section, which includes the TIP projects. There are the funding scenario that was approved in May. Those projects didn't make it into the original TIP because the timeline was a little bit, it didn't line up. But those projects are in that first section of this MTP listing, and when we revise the TIP or amend the TIP this fall, those projects will be added into amendment. That's all I have, unless there are any questions.
The TBD items, how and when will we come back to considering those when we're voting now? What date? Was that something you would administrative?
So let date changes, that's an administrative thing that's required board approval. The information outside of the TIP projects, which will have let dates, I think the longer range ones, we pulled that from the applications that were submitted to us, and sometimes cities didn't know exactly when they would be funded, so they put TBD. It's okay for text dot purposes. If there's concerns, we can definitely add dates in easily.
No, I was just curious, if you come back, when we approve this, we approve it without set dates, I was making sure that.
Yeah.
And then if the cities are able to get funding, prayers that the next infrastructure bill comes straight to the state, come to us, and if we have projects in here, how would that affect?
That's a good question that do you have an answer for that?
So you mean if the funding were to come straight to the MPO and bypass TxDOT?
Yeah.
Well, we'd have to work through that process, but I don't think the TBD information would be a holdup at all. Especially because those are 29 to 34 projects, so we have some time as they go through that reauthorization and anything that would look like. As we get closer to those years, this is a living document.
Okay.
So I anticipate we'll get updates from the cities as they move closer to readiness for their projects.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I was going to say, any other comments or discussion concerning item number 6?
I would like to say one more thing. I know we often get approached for projects here and there. People are going out for a grant or whatever that has to be included in the MTP. Just so you're aware, those projects, when people reach out to us, I think we had one for HOTA submitted a project to us at one point. All we have to do really is add those to the MTP under local funding, so there's nothing really for the board to do. So if at any point you get authorized funding and you're concerned that you have to get it into the MTP, it's not that big of a task. I encourage you to accept any funding like that, and we'll work through getting you in the MTP as we need to.
Hopefully, if that's in the process of occurring, anybody would be in communication with you prior to that occurring.
Yeah.
So that it's perhaps a seamless transition or more seamless.
That's all I have. I'll stop sitting under Judge. I'll sit back.
You give up your title as city manager, and then you just jump into the chair position. I get it. Any other discussion or comments concerning item number 6? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the MTP project listing.
So moved.
Second.
They're all over here in stereo, and Councilmember Long with the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 7 on the agenda is a discussion and action item regarding the direction for phase 2 of the Texas National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure, the NEVI plan implementation in the KTMPO region. Explanation is actually going out on page 38 in your packet, and I'm going to turn that over to James.
So the NEVI program was established under the bipartisan infrastructure law, provides funding for EV charging infrastructure. Each state had to submit their own electric vehicle infrastructure plan as part of it. TxDOT submitted theirs and received approval back in 2022, and they've already, they're in the middle of implementing phase 1 of their plan, which is to put high priority EV charging locations along the NHS system and alternate fuels corridors. Last month, or I guess maybe this was the end of May, we had a meeting with TxDOT to talk about phase 2, which involves MPOs, MPO involvements. They are looking to use the same program that they developed for phase 1 to select projects, to have a project call and select applications. TxDOT would manage the system all on their own. They wouldn't need the MPO to do anything other than make 2 decisions. One is to establish the study area for where projects can come from. And they kind of gave 2 options. One was to use the entire MPO planning area, or we could select specific corridors or areas for projects to come from. And then the second was to determine the power level of infrastructure. And the 2 options were DC direct current fast charge or level 2 chargers. For the power level, TxDOT did recommend using the direct current fast chargers. It's just a lot faster, and that's what everyone's going to. We can't do level 2, but they think it doesn't make sense. They left it up to us for the other option. Staff's recommendation is to use the entire region as a study area and then DC fast chargers for power level. We did discuss this with the TAC 2 weeks ago, and they agreed with staff's recommendation. And so that is what TAC recommended and what staff's recommending. But if there are any questions, happy to answer those.
Questions for James or the staff? Again, this is to consider approving the phase 2 study area. Is specifically what the board is asked to consider today.
That and the power.
And the power level. There's no further discussion. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Yes, sir, I move that we approve the power level recommendation by staff and the survey study area recommended by staff, as presented.
We have a motion to approve from Councilmember Chavez and a second from Mr. Adams. Any further discussion on item number 7? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Ayes have it, motion carries.
The last one is also known as the Bucky Support Act.
When they're not burning them down.
That's right.
Yeah. Burn down our locations. Excuse me. I didn't even think to throw me off like that.
Sorry about that.
You got one. You got it. Item number 8 on the agenda is a discussion and action item, and it's regarding the approval of a nominee for the Small and Rural Representative on the Technical Advisory Committee, page 40 through 44, were the letters of recommendation that went out on that in your packet. And I'm going to turn that over to Uriah.
All right, thank you, Judge. As you're all aware, we revised the bylaws late last year to include a representative from the smaller and rural jurisdictions and areas in the MPO boundary region for somebody to serve on the Technical Advisory Committee. Earlier in the year, or late last year, the Policy Board did appoint a representative from the City of Bartlett, the city administrator there, but she has since left that position, and as such has vacated the position on the TAC. So we are looking actually for the Policy Board to take action to appoint a representative for the remainder of this term, as well as into the next term, since the next term would start in October. So this representative would fill, August and September, and then the next year, and then we would vote or have jurisdiction submit recommendations next year for the same activity.
So you're speaking of appointing somebody to replace,
Mayor Cantu, yes.
that's what you refer to?
Yes.
Thank you.
That being said, I don't have anything else unless there are questions. The recommendation letters are in your packet, and the nominees are listed on the screen as well for your consideration.
I move that we appoint village select mayor.
We've got a motion from Commissioner Whitson to appoint Mayor Bart Henry from the village of Salado.
Second.
And a second from Judge Blackburn.
So where is he at on his term? Just started. But he's been on the board.
Yeah, I just was scheduled before I voted, I just wanted to make sure if he's like, this is his last term or last year.
We're gonna keep him for 20 years. And by the way, he's sitting over there. Careful what you say.
We're not doing that.
Sorry about that.
I was going to say, does his contract, is it tied to the I-35 improvement project? He's not released until I-35 is complete.
Whether he knows it or not.
Yeah. I shouldn't have said that. That was probably
It's recorded.
Yeah, exactly. I'm recording.
It'll live in perpetuity.
So we do, on the floor, we've got a motion and a second. I would open the floor up to any other comments or discussions prior to calling for a vote. And hearing none, the motion and the second is to appoint Mayor Bart Henry from the village of Salado to fill the Rural Transportation Advisory Committee representative position. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Congratulations.
Welcome, congratulations, and condolences. Item number 9 on our agenda is a discussion and action item regarding the use of the FY24 MPO safety planning funds. Should have gone out on page 46 in your packet. I'll turn that over to you, Ryan.
Well, thank you. Right around the time we were awarded our Safe Streets and Roads for All funding, which was a very significant amount of funding of about around $2.3 million, we were advised by the state that they were going to also give us $50,000 for safety planning activities. We have been struggling with determining how to use $50,000 because we can't use it for match, and it has to be a planning activity. And since we're doing a comprehensive safety action plan, that has kind of been a struggle. Over the past couple of months, I've spoken with a couple of other MPOs and TxDOT to kind of get some options on how we may use the $50,000 so they don't go back to TxDOT. With that, two options were identified. We can do one, we can do both, we can do something totally off the wall if anybody has any other options or thoughts. But what we've come up with right now are, either conduct one or two roadway safety audits, which the policy board would designate which roadways or corridors to perform safety audits on, which would be supplemental to our Safe Streets and Roads for All planning activities, and or purchase portable speed signs that would show and track data, which speed is, of course, an area of concern that's been noted in all safety plans across the state, even our preliminary safety plan that TxDOT did for us a while back. And our intent with those would be that KTMPO would house those here. Jurisdictions could then sign those out or check them out or whatever, have them put up, and they could keep them up for 1 to 6 months. But with that, they would ensure that we had access to all of the data to see how many people are speeding, how many cars are traveling, to provide analytics for us to supplement our planning activities. So those are the two options. The purchase of portable signs, that was kind of a stretch, but other MPOs were able to do it, so I just kind of told TxDOT, hey, they did it, so we'd like to possibly do this too.
Signs? Is that good? How many signs?
We are unsure. We kind of wanted to see what the policy board's direction was. We have until December 31st to spend the money and send the invoice to TxDOT.
Should there be some language in item 2 or option 2 that excludes using it during construction periods on a roadway? I mean, is the idea to look at existing roadways not under construction?
I think it could be used for either, but that's just me. I mean, the whole point of this is, it's a safety initiative, and sometimes, if you're driving through a construction zone, you may not see the sign, but if you see this lit up sign, you can almost be publicly shamed if you're going, even though you're in your car, there is an element of public shame that goes with that.
It's an alert though. I mean,
yeah, and it would be able, we would then, if say we were in construction zones, be able to work with TxDOT and say, hey, or DPS even, and say, hey, this is the data we have for this area, just to provide analytics, like I said, for our planning activities in the region.
that makes perfect sense.
I like number 2. It's more tangible.
Yeah, the biggest thing that will be coming up is the 1435 expansion, and I don't know what the depth count was the last time we did an expansion, but it was more than 0. And so I'm assuming we'll have a similar accidents again there, probably between the Expo and downtown Temple. So I think that's a great tool. You can put some distance away and gets people aware and slows them down. So I think that'd be great. So with that, I would make the motion that we approve the spending of the $50,000 grant on the option 2.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve option 2, which we purchase portable speed signs with planning, and a second. Any further discussion on item number 9? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Ayes have it, motion carries. Move on to item number 10, which is a discussion item regarding an update on the SS4A grant. Should be on out on page 10, and I'm going to turn that over to James.
Just a quick update on the grants. You can see on the, and also on the PowerPoint slide, the in-kind update through July. We did just submit a quarterly report last week, and as you can see, we're ahead of the game in terms of what we need so far to date. So making good progress on that front. The other update I wanted to share is that end of June and beginning of July, we've been out in the field with the Killeen team to look at some HSIP project sites, 2 in Temple, 1 in Belton, I think Sparta Road, and then 1 in Wolfville, which were the first 4 that were approved. We'll be out later this fall on some more field visits to the other HSIP project sites that are selected. This is the public engagement activity on the website through July. The last thing I'll say is we're working on identifying additional SS4A HSIP projects, and those will be coming possibly next month to the board for consideration. I think the plan is to have the updated project list approved in September. And that's the SS4A update I have.
Thank you, James. Any questions for James or the staff, or any comments from the board regarding the SS4A? Hearing none, we will move on to item number 11, which again is a discussion item regarding text update on major construction projects in the KTMPO area, identified on pages 50 to 53 of the packet. James, Michael.
Morning, everybody. For those that don't already know me, I'm Mike Gates. I'm the area engineer for Text Development Area Office. So we're just going to go through current kind of projects and maybe a little bit about stuff that we're trying to close out. So there's projects I'm going to go over. So first project is our State Loop 121 job. Obviously, we've been working on it since December of 21. We are expecting it to finish early next year. And that's completely finished. Our next major traffic switch is going to happen in August, which is when we're going to split the two directions of traffic. So instead of, currently they're both running on the northbound side, we'll split it, and then they'll finish the median work in that phase. They're currently paving the final surface on the southbound lanes, and we'll finish with the final paving on the northbound lanes after we do that next traffic switch. So next project is our State Loop 363 project. That's awarded James Construction Group. They just started in June. Estimated completion is summer of 27. It's a 36-month project. Currently working on drainage, bridge drill shafts. They actually have some columns up now. I think industrial, maybe it was just a building where we're building a new interchange. And a lot of earthwork. This project had 800,000 yards of embankment. And so they're going to be doing a lot of dirt work for a long time on this job. We're building a lot of retaining walls to build the new interchanges and that kind of stuff. So they're making good progress so far on this project. So the next project is our 95 bridge replacement project. Currently, we're replacing 4 bridges on State Highway 95. Willow Creek Bridge is completed with just some minor cleanup stuff. One of the things is we're not real happy with their ride surface that they've finished with, so we're working with the contractor to try to get that fixed. Otherwise, that one's pretty much done. And they're currently working on Ronald's, Kathy, and Garce Creek in different phases. It's phased bridge construction, so we move traffic to one side, tear down half the bridge, build the new wider bridge on that half, switch traffic, and then do the other half. Between those 3 bridges, we're in different phases. One of them has been switched, and so we have 2 lanes of traffic on it. The other 2 are under signals right now. One lane, 2-way traffic control on it. So, and that project is expected to complete next summer. Our State Highway 95 turn lanes project. This is a project we did in conjunction with the City of Temple. It is very close to being finished. Some final striping, working with Encore to get a service for some street lighting at the intersection and some signage, and that one will be done very shortly. FM2410, rehab and widen. They've been making good progress on that. I think when I presented this to TAC 2 weeks ago, they were within a couple of days of finishing the rehab process and starting paving. I think because of weather, they still may have one small segment to finish rehab on. And then they will roll into paving immediately after they're done with the rehab. So we're expecting this project to finish in September.
Mike, on that project, you had rehab and widening. How much wider is that road?
So that road before we started was about 22 feet of pavement. And when we finish, it'll be about 30. So it'll be 12-foot lanes and on average a 3-foot shoulder for the section we're rehabbing. There are some spots where we work, like we had one spot where the developer came in and basically we ended up kind of working with them for their turn lane. They built some of it and then we're going to overlay the whole thing. And so there's some spots that are a little wider. Obviously the section that we did just the mill and inlay on the current 4-lane section, that we did that last summer. And before school started, so, but yeah, it should be, for the most part, it's gonna be, it'll have, you know, 3-foot shoulders instead of just being 22 feet of pavement.
For future development, is TxDOT gonna have any requirement for XLT lanes going in and out of development?
So we handle those on a case-by-case basis. I tend to err on the side of asking for them. And so the developers have to build that. We have a process called a donation agreement. Yeah, like, it's not something that we give much on. You know, developers don't want to build them, for the most part. And so, it's one of those things we tend to hold pretty firm on. And in some cases, ask for them even if it doesn't meet the warrants or whatever you want to call from the standard. It doesn't have quite the traffic volume. We still ask for them sometimes because of speed or sight distance. If you have, if you're on the backside of a hill or a curve, we might ask for them anyways, even if it's a little bit lower volume. Tend to ask for them on RV parks because people are pulling in and out of RVs all the time. So, but yeah, it is case by case. You know, somebody builds a house, they're not gonna have to put a single family residence, they're not gonna be in a turn lane, but if it's a large RV park or a new subdivision or something like that, then chances are they'll be having to put it.
Do you take forecasted growth into account in terms of requesting or making developers put in?
So the decision for that isn't typically based on the volume on the main road, it's typically based on the turning. How many trips are turning in and out is usually what triggers the requirement. So the forecasted, when we do large traffic studies, very large developments, they do have to account future traffic and future growth on the system when they're doing things like level of service analysis for intersections, figure out their impact. But for a development, you know, we do it based on completion of development when it's fully built out. So that's what it triggers.
On the projected completion of the development?
Yeah.
And when you say large development, do you have a cutoff, between large and medium?
Yeah, it has to do with how many lots it is, if it's residential, or how many, sometimes it's how many parking spots if it's commercial. And sometimes we can tell looking at the development saying, hey, that's impactful. And it might not hit one of those thresholds that's in writing, but we still ask for it anyways because of a traffic impact analysis. And that's how we look at their impact from there and determine what they have to build based on that.
I'm sure you're obviously very aware, but we get more and more harassment in Temple with the need for turning lanes.
Like people asking for them?
Screaming.
Yeah, my battles are usually me telling developers they have to do it and them not wanting to. So that's usually the battle I have on it.
Okay, well, no, I understand that, but just so you're aware that we get, it's a constant, almost daily call I get because I represent parts of 93.
I completely believe it. And 93 is
Yeah.
especially a challenge, especially when you get east of 31st Street where it's.
Absolutely, and growing.
And
I
for the
mean,
most
growing
part,
in terms of development.
like a lot of it's 60, a lot of that stretch is 60 miles an hour.
Yes.
And so high speed and we're asking for on most of the developments. In fact, we have one just east of 31st Street where they built left
Yes.
and right turn lanes.
I'm very aware of it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, so this project should be finishing in September. That it is, what they're doing is particularly impacted by weather and with the rain we've been getting, it's a little wetter and all year so far it's been wetter than what we normally see, but you know, even here in July it's been a little wetter than our normal July, so. State 195, State Highway 195 barrier project. For those that are familiar, this is going to look very similar to the one that we did on 190 last summer. kind of from just west of Heidenhammer to almost all the way to where Rogers one, this project starts. Basically, we're doing a widening on the inside shoulder, and we're taking our current stockpile of precast barrier and installing it. So that's what this project is going to look like. James Construction Group has been awarded the project, should start work next week, and we expect that project to finish early next spring. US 190 Rogers bypass. So this is my favorite project to talk about. I am being very sarcastic. So I think everybody's aware at this point, but in April, we found our contractor being in default of the contract. I think maybe I've talked about that to this group before. So we're working with the bonding company currently to get a new contractor on board. My understanding is they have accepted bids. They asked 12 contractors and got 2 bids. And our office and some district folks are going to be meeting with the bonding companies next month to go over those bids and some technical questions they have about the design and some other things to try to keep moving this along and get a new contractor on board to finish up this project. Yes, sir.
Has TxDOT been satisfied with the work that was done, or is there going to be any rework on that project?
There is definitely going to be rework. There were some of the reasons that we defaulted them were due to the work that they did. Okay. For anybody that drove that road, they know that we had some pretty serious pavement failures earlier this year. We used our own maintenance budget to repair that. And that was one of the reasons why they were defaulted.
I drove it Friday, and it actually seemed pretty good. I guess that's due to y'all rework.
Yeah, so especially there's 2 or 3 spots where they built temporary detours.
Okay.
And those were areas where we were especially having problems during those temporary detours.
Yeah.
There was some permanent stuff built, new construction and some failures also, but the temp detours were kind of our hot spots for the problem.
Did you say that the 2 bids have been received?
They did. We don't really know what they're doing with it. It's the bonding company's responsibility, and they haven't really shared that information with us yet. I believe that's going to happen in our meeting in August.
Is the bonding company going to cover whatever increased costs there are?
They are contractually obligated to do so. There is some, whether we own any of the problems, and there's going to be those back and forth discussions and negotiations about how much of that we own. So
The part that you end up owning is TxDOT, got a funding strategy for that?
we haven't talked about it yet. We will figure it out just like we would with any problem that came up on one of our contracts. But it is something we're going to have to work through as we do it. And that funding will be spread out over the likely 2 years it's going to take us to complete the project. But yeah, I understand the concern.
So my last question is timeline now.
So, what I've been telling people, I was at the public meeting for the I-14 extension a couple of weeks ago and got to talk to a lot of people about this project. What I've been telling everybody is probably best case to see the contractor working again is September, October. Worst case is sometime next spring, and then likely somewhere around 24 months to complete it once we get the contractor working.
Once it begins again.
Right. So, there was $27 million left in our pay items from our original contractor. And what I'm hearing from the 2 contractors that gave them bids and also from the bonding company is the prices they got were more in the $60 million range. So that kind of tells you about what the delta is. So a lot of that's just due to earthwork and asphalt, and those things are so much more expensive than they were when the project was bid in 2019.
Are you pleased with, is TxDOT pleased with the 2 contractors that have been?
Good people we've worked with.
Okay.
So, one of them not in this county, and but they've done a lot of this work in Livingston County. So that's where we're at with the project. FM 1123 bridge replacement project. So this work, I said we'll begin on 2024. I think we're going to actually start time on the 26th of July, that's what's in the contract documents. We don't expect to see like closures of any of the bridges until sometime in August. They have to get barricades set up and other things before they can actually close the bridge. This project does have full closures at 3 different locations. They finished one location, moved to the next one. And we have put some milestones and a pretty strong incentive, disincentive for the project as a whole, but also for each individual location to ensure that the contractor keeps those closure times as short as possible. So, let's see.
You know what order you're gonna go in though?
So I believe the first one is Kathy, and I think then it goes to Runnels and then Moon Branch. I do know that there is a utility at Kathy that is, it's actually like a aerial guy wire that crosses the road that was supposed to be relocated and they don't have it done yet. And so there may be some potential if we run into a challenge like that we switch locations to keep the project going. So, project's currently in closeout. So the I-14, we have 3 I-14 projects, our Nolanville widening project, our Salt widening project, and the I-14 barrier project in Killeen. That's the one where we installed the new pedestrian plastic fence along the top of the rail. Anecdotally, we have already seen a reduction in pedestrian crashes on 14 since we started this project. We don't have the data yet, but we do believe that it's working, and we do have a little better data on the barriers that they constructed on 35 in Waco, that it also was being effective. So that's good news. We had several pedestrian crashes in Killeen and Park Heights over the last.
There are fewer people walking on the highway that way, but they still find a way to.
People are people. But it does, based on what I've seen, because we do fatal reviews every month, and talking to the Killeen PD folks are really well represented in when we do those reviews, and they've been kind of also concurring with what they've seen, and it does seem to have helped. I doubt if it'll make it 0, but it does seem to be helping. The West Central Bridge rehab here in Belton, basically we're just trying to finish some vegetative establishment stuff. The contractor disturbed a bunch of the grass in the park. We put sod down, we're just waiting for it to basically take before we can start closing that one out. WS zone signal and Killeen is kind of the same. We're trying to deal with some vegetative establishment challenges on that one. And Central Avenue sidewalk and Temple is basically done. We're just going through some like final quantity adjustment change orders and that kind of stuff.
So what signal on W Zone, Rancier, BMB, or?
I would have to go, to be honest. I know it's on the south side of 14.
Okay, thanks.
And then our 201 Mellon Inlay and Killeen, that one we're just doing punch list stuff on. So basically just trying to cleaning up some shoulder grading and some other stuff, and that one's basically done. So, that is all the projects I came here to talk about. I did realize as we were talking that I probably should reach out to Jeff, my counterpart in Gatesville, to ask him about the stuff happening in Corio. So I got a text from him while we were talking, and instead of trying to remember it, I will just look at it. So for the 36 million inlay, all asphalt work is done. They're just finishing up some culvert work, and we're doing a polymer overlay on the bridge they still have to do. The 116.9 project, the traffic and final configuration, basically they have some intersection signal stuff to wrap up. He's saying that should be done by Labor Day. And then they just started the SH9 turnaround at Business 190 in Cove, and should be setting up barricades on that very real shortly to build that project. So that's what and that one's roughly a 6-month project. So that's what I got from Jeff for the 3 projects in Corio County. Does anybody have any other questions?
Mike, I'm surprised you don't have a slide that says Bobby slide up there, because I know I ask you about this every time we talk, but 2484 from I-35 Brewer Lane, any updates on when that's supposed to start?
I don't have a hard land date on it. I do know that we have been advancing through our PS&E process on the plans. I don't have that date memorized. I think it's gonna let sometime like late next summer.
I thought we were looking at October this year. Conversation we had 6 months ago.
Yeah, no, I do know that like the ready to let date on it is February. Now, maybe they ran into some snags on the PSP. I did hear some rumbling about that. So
Well, there've been some pretty major changes out there. We got a couple of convenience stores coming in right there on 1670. And with QT going in, we've got a lot more traffic there at the end of it, so you're probably reworking some of that, I would imagine.
And also, like, I do know for sure that the signal is going in at 1670 as part of this project. We're working with the school district for the traffic impact analysis for the new high school. And trying to do some of that actually, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going back to my firm's going to talk about that study, so.
Starting to see, with that QT, the last couple of weeks, we've had 2 fatalities, right out of the QT.
Really?
Yeah, it's a bad, turning left onto 2044, headed toward the 35 corridor. It's just the traffic coming in their direction. Visibility's great, I mean, you're coming downhill, but people pull out, I don't think they realize how fast 50 miles an hour is. People are coming from either direction. We had motorcycles killed last week, and a pretty bad T-bone, a couple of them the week before. So I know that's changed, and that was not part of your original concerns out there, but there's a lot of traffic coming off the highway and into that QT, and then coming up 2040 before you get back on the highway. Put another eye on that.
Yeah, I've definitely been talking about it, but I haven't seen the plans to see what's going into it, so we didn't put out more yet, but we talked, I commented on the last review.
So make sure it's able to be read. Thank you.
So another project that's not on here yet is our rest area truck parking expansion. Or rest area is south of Salado. That was let the first week of August, and so you should see, you'll be seeing some closures and some more happening at rest areas pretty soon. So, that's all I got.
Mike, thank you for the update. Any questions, comments, concerns from the board for Mike or the staff? Hearing none, we'll move on. Item number 12, discussion item regarding public input received through June of 2024. Very informative on pages 56 and 57, and I'm turning it over to Anita. James, did you dump it off on her and didn't tell her?
I dumped it. I'm the dumper.
No, I can review them. I just didn't have a paper in front of me. I'm sorry. Caught me off guard there. Yes, so we had several comments on public transit and bus routes and people expressing, sorry. I'm so sorry, y'all. People expressing a desire to be more like other cities as it relates to ADA requirements on our bus routes. And all of these public comments have been forwarded to the proper entities, and we have responded to the citizens. How's that, Judge Miller?
You did wonderful. You did wonderful. I usually get to like quiz James on it, but I was told, sorry, you got thrown into the bus.
No, that's fine.
So for the third one about FY24 the school district is building turn lanes into that new school
Yes.
436. So actually they're under construction right now.
And I think that when we reached out to the city of Belton, we looped in the actual citizen that had that question, and so that was resolved.
Okay.
And it was really a great collaboration to show how strong our region is once again, addressing these comments with the citizen, with the jurisdiction. I thought it was a great experience for that particular citizen there, but thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Anita, thank you for the update, even though we put you on the spot like that. Any questions?
Anytime, sir.
Any questions, comments, concerns from the board for Anita or the staff on public comments?
Judge, I was going to mention on transit district comments, I think district moved to micro September.
It's going to be, yes, micro will be launched. It's September 3rd or September 4th, right after Labor Day, one of those 2 days.
So within the next 60 days, my sense is both those comments go away. With microtransactions. And it'll be much better for the picture options.
And we have gotten back to each of those individuals.
Well, I'd like to just chime in if I may. One of the things about the microtransit services is the individuals that, when I was doing the MTP survey and I was doing the ride-along, the things that the individuals that actually ride the bus were concerned about is that during the training sessions on how to use the app and to learn more about it, they're at work. And so in the MTP public engagement summary, I did recommend that y'all have a staff member actually on the bus and do ride-alongs and provide training to the individuals that are on the bus, because they're not going to be able to come to these meetings because they're at work. And so that was one of the big concerns, especially for the group on the Killeen that were commuting up to Temple. They didn't understand how it worked. And they expressed a lot of concern about not knowing what to do next.
Yeah, we've actually started, well, it was part of our ambassador program, but those training sessions have started this week actually on board the buses. And we're also working on a kind of a training video that will be put on our website as well. And it's just specific to the app, exactly how to work your way through the app.
And that was the other thing that I learned, and I know it's just a small segment of population, but a lot of those clients that use the bus for commuting, they have the flip phones and they're not going to have, they pay certain amounts, so they're not going to have access to the websites, and talking it through with them was really important.
There's a phone number.
There is. There's 3 ways
to
that
call phone number and get the ride.
Correct.
So you don't have to have the app.
Is correct. The app is there for people with smartphones. Then we've got the old-fashioned telephone number that anybody can call the customer service line, and the customer service rep will actually schedule their trip for them, or they could do it online if they have access to a computer.
And I did explain that there would be a phone number for them, but they still had a lot of anxiety for the transition.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Okay, very good. And good comment, Ms. Blackburn. Thank you. Anything else to cover under the public input? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 13, which is the director's update. I was about to say James. I don't know. No, you're right.
As you'll see on the screen, we have our upcoming meetings. September 4th will no longer be the Technical Advisory Committee, of course, because we changed that to September 11th. Earlier in this meeting, the only meeting right now that doesn't happen at 9:30 is the BPAC meeting, which will happen at 2:30 p.m. in this building. Other updates that I have are in 2006, the planning funds a formula was devised with all the MPOs on how to distribute planning dollars. As we're all aware, that's quite some time ago. In the most recent census, we did have 2 new MPOs that were named, and then a new TMA, which is one of the larger MPOs with over 200,000. That being said, it was determined by the TEMPO board, which is the Texas Association of MPOs, that it was we were overdue to look at how that formula has been drafted and set up. Right now, I'm part of a working group that's going through the formula revision process. Our main focus is really getting the smaller MPOs up to a base level that sustain their federal requirements, because their current base level, they typically have to bank dollars from year to year to year to even meet their minimum planning requirements that are set forth by the federal government. So we're looking at options on how to possibly increase that base. Any options that we are investigating, though, just so this board is aware, as we've talked before, there are always losers and winners. With us not being part of that group that has a concern about the base being raised, we are in the losers category for this, just depending on what it looks like. Federal funding, of course, is going up about 2 to 4% annually, our PL dollars, so any hit we have would be minimal. I anticipate, though, that we'll see anywhere between a $60,000 and $100,000 annual hit when the new funding formula comes out. I am working to schedule another meeting with the mid-size MPOs that are 200,000 to $1 million to kind of talk with them, engage their concerns. We're trying to ensure that cuts are equitable, and that people do have enough. There are enough dollars at that base level for people to conduct their planning activities like they're required to do. And of course, with the a funding formula that was produced in 2006, it's really antiquated. We're also taking measures in the working group to establish a routine update to the funding formula so that in 20 more years, we're not reassessing and revamping the entire thing as we're having to do right now. So there's more to come on that. I anticipate there was talk about the new funding formula going into effect this coming October. I think the general consensus for that is we're going to try to push that out to next October to allow people to kind of adapt to any increases or decreases that they may be experiencing. So just so everybody's aware, we are potentially looking at a funding cut. I don't anticipate that this will affect, the PL dollars are typically what we use for staff salaries. I don't see us having to cut any salaries. What I plan to do is kind of absorb some of the special studies dollars to fund staff, and then ask the board for, policy or something as we move forward to take, if there are special studies that we need to do regionally, maybe we use some Cat 7 funds. That's typically how a lot of the MPOs across the state are funding special studies. We've just been able to do that over the past few years, fund those studies with our PL dollars. But there are other options for that. So I don't want anybody to be concerned that we're going to need to downsize staff. I don't see that happening. And with the annual, 4% increase, if we see a 2% reduction, it's going to be very minimal. There'll be minimal impacts, I anticipate at this time. Additionally, I did send out an email last month.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
How much money do we get right now?
Get around $880,000.
You're anticipating about $200,000.
Right. With the most recent numbers that we were shooting, it looked like we would take about a $60,000 a year hit.
What's the current, in simplistic, what's the current formula based on population?
It's very, very complex. It's population, and then there's a base floor, and then they go back to the population to bring everybody up to the base. And then there are set-asides for TMAs, air quality. We're proposing really to get rid of all of those set-asides, multi-state, multinational.
So what's the new formula going to?
Basically, it's population, bring you up to base, and then a population distribution with a 2% reduction to all MPOs that are above the base to offset that.
And this is how many MPOs are there?
They're currently 24.
24. There's two have been added. 2 TMAs.
One TMA was added.
One TMA.
No.
2 TMAs.
2 TMAs were, 2 got advanced to TMA and 1 new MPO. Equal pass.
So that has the effect of having 3 more plates around high.
Correct.
You said we were on the loser side. Who's on the winner side? Rules?
The very small MPOs, Texarkana, MPOs that right now have one staff member to conduct all their planning that are at the base, the 180,000 to 200,000 annually. Any other questions on the scale funding formula? The other updates I have are TransPod. Many of you probably saw letters come from me about requesting letters of support. If you were behind that initiative, I did receive some of those letters and have submitted those to the TransPod folks. I haven't heard back from our contact over there. Additionally, the MPO Institute is a new initiative by AMPO, our national organization. I think we printed some one-pagers out. If we didn't, we'll make sure to give you that information. But it's a new initiative to provide training to MPO staff, MPO board members. If you have an interest in attending, I think right now there are currently 2 trainings that would be relevant to our MPO, MPO financial planning and MPO 101. If you have an interest in attending those classes, please let me know. I'm trying to get authorization from TxDOT for us to do kind of like a group purchase, so we can use our PL dollars so your local jurisdictions don't need to pay for that. If you reach out to me and say, I'd like to do that, and TxDOT says no, I will ignore your email. No, I'll accordingly respond and let you know that TxDOT is won't allow it, but I don't anticipate there'll be any problems. The other things I have, we do have 2 new staff members. You may see emails coming from shortly. We have Sam in the back over there and David. This is week 2 for both of them. We have, in September, we will have elections for the officers. Unfortunately, Judge Miller is no longer eligible to serve. So if you have an interest in being the chair and you don't anticipate that there'll be any issues with an election and you have some continuity, I encourage you to let me know.
Eligible because of bylaws.
Because of the bylaws.
So we need to amend the bylaws.
Can't do it this week. The last things I have are, you may see a news release coming from KTMPO. We're trying to get some additional input for Safe Streets and Roads for All plan. Anita has been really a great asset in getting any type of input for any of our plans over the past year. We typically wouldn't receive any public input, any survey responses. So I commend staff on our ability to get out there, but we're going to do a final push really for SS4A for people to complete those surveys. You won't see all that information in your packets, but we are actually receiving input. Staff have been out and about attending public events. We really have had a really good response with this, as well as our MTP, much better response than we have in the past. And then the last thing I have is our air quality update, which are 67 and 70 parts per billion. As you'll see on the chart, we tend to go down and then up and down and then up. And if you have any technical questions on what that looks like for us in our region, of course, I'll hand it over to James because he's the air quality expert.
Is the dash line, is that attainment, not attainment?
Correct, that's the current standard. It is, if we're up above 1 month, that's okay. It's based on a rolling average over a 3-year period. So that chart on the right is where we're at. Those numbers in green, 67 and 70 is where we're at.
That trend, that really hasn't deviated for the past several years.
Yeah, sometimes it's the spikes are slightly different, but there's usually one spike a year and then it's down.
So are we worried the fact that when you're comparing May, June from last year to May, June to this year, we're significantly higher?
No, because the year before was higher in May and June and lower in July, August, so it just kind of depends. A lot of it, like I know that spike in August was from one weekend at the very end of the month when there was wildfire smoke. And that's why there's a spike, because these are the maximum numbers for the month. For the most part, we're generally below, and we are trying to get some additional data so that if that number drops or EPA comes and says, hey, you're looking to be non-attainment, we can say, actually, it's not us, it was this one event that, can you disregard that, and then we'll be below. So we think we're okay, but we're still tracking just to make sure.
What attributes to the set spike, the 8th of May?
The one, like 71, the one from like the last 2 months?
Yeah, 56 to 70.
I'm not sure exactly if there was a reason for that. We can go take a look, or ask our air quality consultants if they have any ideas. It could just be the temperature increase from, well, I guess May there wasn't a temperature increase. There's a lot of factors why it could be an increase like that.
But then it sort of looks like for 2024, if we have a typical fall and winter, we're going to be below what we've been in the last couple of years.
Yes, that's the hope, unless there's several days in a row that are very high, because
So I'm just saying, if we look back over at least those 2 years,
right.
and again, the trends for the fall and the winter.
Yeah.
Looks like we're going to end up with better numbers than that. Which most of our non-attainment issues were associated with naturally recurring area issues like wildfires or cedar or.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Yeah, that's correct.
I don't have anything else unless James has.
I have one more just housekeeping item. For future media invites starting next month and going forward, you will be getting those from a new mailbox that we created that's shared among staff, and it's prsmeetings@sigcog.org. It will say KTMPO, but just do not be afraid, it's not spam. It's us, Callie, or whoever sends it, their signature will still be in there, but it won't be from an individual, it'll be from a shared mailbox.
James, what's it gonna say again? I'm sorry.
It's gonna be prsmeetings@sigcog.org.
Okay.
We can send that out in the follow-up. We'll send out what the email inbox
Okay, good,
is.
thank you.
Yeah, we're using it as shared for our department, so it's MPO and non-MPO meetings also.
And it may get caught in your filters or whatever.
No kidding.
So if you need to, you can submit that
Thank you
to.
for
your tech.
that notification.
You'll continue to get a reminder email directly from Callie or whoever the staff person is, the Friday before and then the Monday or Tuesday before a meeting, so that, if you do miss the calendar invite, you'll still get those directly.
Okay, good. Those are helpful.
That's all I have.
You, Ryan, James, staff, thank you for those updates. Any questions for you, Ryan, or the staff concerning the director's update? We'll move on to item number 14, member comments on the board. Any words of wisdom to share? Okay, I would just add a welcome to the new staff members. We appreciate your efforts, and you've got some good leadership to follow, so that's a big shoes to fill. But welcome aboard. And then just on an anecdotal note, I hope everyone is enjoying the limited amounts of rain that we've received in the area. I mean, it's, it's kind of a blessing and a curse, but, and in conjunction with that, I hope everyone's recovery efforts from the May events are going well, and that, it's a big challenge for all of us. So with that concludes the business of the Transportation Planning and Policy Board at this time, and we stand adjourned. Thank you all.